Evan, what was the idea behind this one?
The top 5 characters we met on Snap.
That's right.
I always like to pride myself on knowing a lot of Marvel characters and a lot of obscure Marvel characters. There were actually a couple characters that I thought had been created exclusively for Snap.
Yeah.
And then later found out, no, they were in comics.
They have been around for a little bit. If you remember, one of the questions I asked you was, how much overlap do you think we'll have?
I said 4.
Yeah, and I said 2. So I cannot wait to see what your top 5 is going to be, and I can't wait to see what mine is because I still got to find it.
Then I found out you didn't know Rock Slide, so
I did not. What did that?
Because I mean, if you're wanting to do a New Mutants theme deck, Jesse, you're gonna need to fold him in there somewhere. I don't even know. Well, yeah, I guess technically he's New Mutants-ish, at least under the current banner of New Mutants, which is the original New Mutants and anybody else we want to write about, which is not the worst idea.
All right, so we're going to work our way, I guess, from 5 to 1. I think you had a methodology here for ranking yours.
It was the combination of how new they were to me and how much I used them.
All right.
So my number 5 is one that I rarely, if ever, use, and I found out I actually did know who they were eventually. One of the ones that I initially thought had been created just for the game, but turns out I did read about her in Asgardians of the Galaxy, I believe, Sarah.
Sarah. Oh, yeah. Okay.
I like her ability, lowers the cost of all your cards by 1, but she's a 5 cost, understandably. So really, you're only getting that on 1 turn. There's just other 5 cost cards I like better.
Not on my list. It's funny because I have a list of runners up, and guess what? She's not on there either. I completely forgot about her. I don't use her at all. I actually seriously have never. I watch her get dropped a lot, but. Mm-hmm. I don't feel the necessity to bring her out because I'm like, it's just, I guess I don't have decks that really overrun people a lot. I see a lot, when I see Sarah, then like the next turn, there's going to be a big drop of cards usually.
Her first appearance was in Angela, Asgard's Assassin #1. I guess she's a former angel who is now Angela's wife, but she started out a male angel. I don't know. I just remember a reference to her in Asgardians of the Galaxy, which is, and I say this just in terms of the title itself, not the quality of the series, but is one of the greatest titles that Marvel has ever produced. I mean, the series was fun. It had Thunderstrike, his son, Frog Thor, and all kinds of good stuff. But Angela was in there because for some reason, after Neil Gaiman won his lawsuit and had ownership of Angela wrested away from Todd McFarlane, he immedially sold the character to Marvel.
Oh yeah, he was like, "Here you go, guys, have at it as much as you want."
So yeah, once I figured out who she was, I was like, "Oh wait, yeah, I think I have seen her in something," but I didn't. It took a Google to remind me of that.
Okay. All right. Well, then my number 5 is Debris. So
not on my list because I vaguely remember her.
Okay. All right. Debris.
She's a new warrior.
That's correct. Debris. Deborah Fields is her actual name. Created by Zeb Wells and Scotty Young. First appeared New Warriors Volume 3, Number 4 from September of 2005. And let's remember this because we might have to do a little bit of research at the end of this. But what's the oldest character on our lists? Debris, like I said, first appearance September of 2005. I use her quite a bit, especially when Galactus was hitting the meta. When I was seeing Galactus all the freaking time, Debris was in my decks to throw those rocks and fill up those locations. And she was probably my one weapon, comic accurate weapon. You've seen Galactus and Debris throw down in the comics. I know you have.
All the time. Yeah. In that classic New Warriors Volume 3, number 70, that thing didn't get out of double digits.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry, out of the teens, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And that's not a knock on Zeb Wells, who absolutely killed it, I have to say, on Hellions.
I've heard of Hellions. I've never read it.
If you had given me a list of all the X titles in this era, actually, when I saw the X titles coming out, I read the concept for Hellions, I read the lineup of the team, and I thought, no, there is nothing about this that interests me, but our mutual friend Chris Sheehan got me into reading all the X-Men comics on Marvel Unlimited, and my gosh, Hellions was the best one, and it's not even close.
Wow.
Jesse, he made me care about John Greycrow, a.k.a. politically incorrect name from the Marauders.
Okay.
And he made me care about Psylocke's old body.
No.
Yeah. Psylocke's back to being British, but they were like, hey, you know what? We still have this ridiculously attractive ninja body that she used to have. We can't leave literally anybody dead at Marvel except Marvel. So let's put her in some.
She's got to be out there, right? What is the body? What is that person's name? It's like Quan something. Quanah, that's right.
Quanon, yes.
Quanon, that's right.
She was the star of Fallen Angels, one of the early series, and probably, I mean, I don't want to bash people's efforts, but probably nobody's favorite series. It was the first one canceled of the new X-Men things. And then Zeb Wells is like, hey, I'm going to take a group of mostly villains and Havoc, and I do like Havoc, and I'm going to tell a story about them, and we're going to pick up the threads from Fallen Angels. And I said, yeah, no, thank you. And by about the 4th issue, I'm like, what is happening here? It's phenomenal.
That's great. Random.
The Goblin Queen. He made me care about Madeline Pryor.
No, well.
Yep.
Madeline Pryor. My goodness.
He made me feel things about Madeline Pryor.
That's crazy.
Like empathy, not the sort of things you think about when you see your costume.
I was going to say, man, Mark Silvestri made me care about Madeline Pryor in a different way. Debris, telekinesis. She can move stuff around. That's her comic book power. You can clearly see that. It is on display in Marvel Snap. All right, man. Let's hear the number 4 for you.
Number 4, I don't think this will fairly take the title of oldest character. I recognize the name, but I had never seen this character like this and didn't know that they were someone you would put in a card game, but Bast.
Yeah, I remember when I first saw Bast, I was like, what is the Predator doing here?
I knew Bast was like the god, the panther god that the Wakandans idolize. So I knew of it, but I had or of her, I guess she's female, but I had never seen her in that form. Now I was looking up some stuff. The Marvel Fandom Wiki lists her first appearance as Fantastic Four number 52, which was also Black Panther's first appearance as a totem. And I've heard references to her, and I guess even in Christopher Priest's Black Panther, when the Panther gods show up to slap Mephisto around, technically one of them is Bast, or Bast is in there. But this form, I didn't totally track down. I think it's from Ta-Nehisi Coates' run, because I saw some references to her and the Intergalactic Empire of Wakanda. So I'm guessing that's where she showed up, but I haven't finished that run, and I'm trying to learn, that you can't read everything. But
yeah, that's right.
I still didn't do a deep dive because I'm like, I want to read that story.
Wow.
But I mean, Bast I had read references to, but I guess it's kind of like if you saw comics and Thor kept, saying by Odin's beard or whatever, and then one day you open it up, you're like, wait, Odin does stuff?
Right.
Bast wasn't one that I used a lot until recently. I especially with some of those Gambit decks, where I was using like Gambit and Mystique, a lot of Wong and a lot of low cost cards. There's a good chance if you get Bast out there early, you can bump everybody else's stats up to a 3.
Right. That is going to be the oldest one according to my list anyway, if we're counting Fantastic Four 52. But you said as a physical being, you think it was later?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I just kind of skimmed the wiki, and there's been different references and incarnations. I want to say she was also in, and I don't remember if I read this or not, the Hercules tie-in to Secret Invasion, when like Hercules led the gods of Earth against the Skrull gods.
Oh,
it's kind of weird, since all the Skrulls in Secret Invasion kept saying he loves you, and the only explanation they gave to that was one of them said God. But anyway, let's not go off on that tangent. But so I mean, I may have seen other incarnations of Bast, but I looked at that and I'm like, okay, that's a Black Panther thing, right? I have no idea.
Yeah, my number 4. And again, if it's on your list, let me know, and we'll save it.
Yep, she is on my list.
Okay, all right. So we will hold off. So my number 3 is Arrow.
That's my number 3 as well.
Oh, very nice. Okay, well, then we can both talk about it, but I want to go first. A real name is Lei Ling, created by, Zhou Lifan and Kang, as in Keng.
Oh, so not the Conqueror.
No, not the Conqueror, the creator. First appeared, according to this, I don't know what CN stands for. Arrow CN, number 1.
That's a reference to China.
Oh, okay.
Or she was originally released online as part of like a Chinese online game. That was where she was introduced, so I'm not sure what Arrow CN #1 means, though. Yeah, it looks like, I'm looking at the cover now, and like it's in Chinese and English, the cover and the credits. This comic was originally released online in the Chinese internet gaming giant NetEase as the beginning of their cooperation with Marvel Comics.
Ah, okay. All right.
So she was introduced in a game, just not this game.
That's crazy. Her first appearance was September 5th, 2018.
She has aerokinesis.
Aerokinesis.
She can sense, generate, and control wind. Her wind has the power of a hurricane, and her powers are linked to chi.
Okay. There
is a new, like, Asian super team, I think, that she is a part of. Yeah, Agents of Atlas.
Oh, okay.
So the new Agents of Atlas, instead of being like the weird shadowy organization that Marvel doesn't have enough of, the Agents of Atlas now are a bunch of like Asian Pacific superheroes.
This is a deep cut. I mean, when you look at the history that this character has, it's not like, I mean, to me, granted, I'm an old man at this point, and I'm not reading a whole lot of comics other than the ones I read with you guys, but I'm just looking through the wiki here, and I'm reading stuff that I just wasn't reading ever. And it's not like there's big names being dropped in the wiki here that she's hung out with. So
I was using Arrow a lot in conjunction with the Kingpin.
Yeah.
But which now, just perusing the wiki, I don't think that's a comic accurate combo.
Probably not.
But I mean, no, it's cool. First of all, they need to have some deeper cuts in here, and then especially if she's already a known quantity. I mean, I don't know how popular this was, but if she's a known quantity in the most popular game in China, and you're wanting to appeal to an international audience, that's a good idea to get her in there.
I do not begrudge them for doing that.
There were a trio of characters that Sarah, and one other coming up that I thought were created just for this game.
Well, there we go.
I honestly wouldn't mind seeing another character. I mean, an original character dropped in this game.
What would you call him, though? Him or her?
I don't know. I'm just saying I wouldn't mind one. I didn't think this through, Jesse. With these ambush questions.
Well, I mean, you got to make it like Snap related somehow. So
Snap per car. No, wait.
Wait a second now. My number 2 is Null.
Oh, okay. Nowhere on my list.
He wasn't around when we first started playing, I don't think, or at least when I first started playing. He ends up getting dropped a few times on me. I'm like, what is this crazy looking character? I had no idea, no clue who it was. Mark and I talked a trilogy of books, and one of which was Silver Surfer Black. And it was a great book. And that was the first time I ever read anything with Null in it. His first full appearance, according to the wiki, Venom Volume 4, number 3. So that came out in June of 2018. Okay. Retroactively, according to this, his first appearance was Thor, God of Thunder, number 6 from March of 2013. I don't know what retroactively means. I don't know if they mean...
Is he tied to All Black, the Necro Sword?
You're probably right.
Yeah, now I am finding here the symbiotes turned on Null and trapped him at the core of the throne world, rebranding themselves Clintar out of their word for cage.
Okay. All right, so that...
Yeah. Okay, Null created a sword of living darkness, the All Black, and that is, I believe, the sword that Gore the God Butcher used. So that Thor issue would have been probably right at the end of the God Butcher storyline.
You're right. That's right. One of the very few Thor stories that I've actually sat down and read.
Well, and let me just tell you, though, check out some of the old Thor stuff. We're going through the Eternals saga with Billy D. and Ed Moore.
Yeah.
I'm not a Thor guy either, but those old Thor comics are fun.
That's great.
Plus, you go back to the stuff right before it, and you can meet our old buddy Red Norval.
Yes, that's right. Red Norval. He needs a snap card.
Yes, he does. But it would probably be like a 0/0 destroy this card upon playing it.
Just another way to get death down, I guess.
Or if anybody plays Lady Sif, he's immediately removed. The whole Venom storyline leading up to Null seemed to be Marvel's strategy for finally making Venom stand on his own. Because I remember when they were doing a Venom movie without Spider-Man, I'm like, how can you tell Venom's story without Spider-Man? Donny Cates and Venom, I mean, he made Venom the central part of an event, and Spider-Man was in it, but you don't need Spider-Man for that story at all. And the spider symbol was actually a dragon that they just adapted a little when one of them got made into Spider-Man's costume.
Wow. And even in Silver Surfer Black, I think he rides a dragon in that.
Yeah. Null's all about the dragons. King in Black it's like all the Marvel crossovers. There's the core storyline that's big and sprawling and sometimes skimps on the details. And then there's some regular issue tie-ins and some one-shots or limited series. And some of them are good, some of them are bad, and some of them involve Iron Man and Doctor Doom teaming up to take on a venomized Santa Claus.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. That one's actually in the good category.
All right. That's interesting. Oh, man. A venomized Santa Claus. All right, man.
My number 2 was Wave.
Okay. All right.
And Wave was the third of the triumvirate of characters I was convinced were Snap originals. But her first appearance was in 2019's War of the Realms, New Agents of Atlas, number 1.
Pearl Pangan is her actual name here. Created by Greg Pak and Lenil Yu. I'm right there with you, buddy. I think I had her at number 4. She'd been around for a while, I think, in the game, but I'd never used her at all until, of course, we started seeing...
Wave Herald of Galactus, yeah. Sometimes even when she's in my deck, she brings Galactus for the other player.
Oh, yes.
She's also a good way, if you don't have Sif handy, to get Agatha out of your hair.
That's true. I've seen that happen. So that was my number 4. That was your number 2. I'll go ahead and lay out my number 1.
There's only a limited number of characters, Jesse. They're not infinite. They're not infinite.
But number 1 could be Infinite.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I think Infinite is coupled upon the fact that I'm playing a game and I'm like, okay, I've got this. I'm doing great. And then out comes a 20 powered card of something I've never seen before in my life. I'm like, how is this a Marvel thing? What is this thing? Ergo, that's why it's at my number 1. Plus, I definitely use this a lot. So if I'm going by your criteria, there for a while, which I think I still have that deck. I did not delete it. Usually I delete my decks within a month after I create them. But I've kept my Shulkanaut deck around.
Oh, yeah.
It really is kind of like the only thing that I can find that has a use for Infinite. I don't like using him. I do not like sacrificing that turn unless I have a benefit, and that's where Shulky comes in.
And Sunspot. He showed up in Ultimates, which was the 616 version of Ultimates, which was Black Panther, Captain Marvel, Blue Marvel, Spectrum, and America Chavez.
Okay.
I had dropped that one before he showed up. A mysterious being who has tried to access this plane of reality several times. I was just looking at something that mentions that he appeared in Mighty Avengers, which I did read and went back and bought all the issues of, but apparently that was an earlier manifestation of him. So it's kind of retroactive, like what we were talking about with Null. Yeah.
Okay.
So he actually appeared in Mighty Avengers, and then I guess he was in the Ultimates when they crossed over in Civil War II. That Inhuman that could tell the future, Ulysses, he warned Blue Marvel that the Infinite was coming. Or as I keep trying to call him, the Imaginaut, because when Mark Waid was writing Fantastic Four, the intro always described them as Imaginauts.
What I found crazy about the Infinite is that, okay, he was also known as, I think they have him down there as an alias as Macronaut. He's an interdimensional being who apparently tried to come over to the 616, but he's so massive, like if he landed on the planet, he would crack the planet in half. So they had to figure out a way to like reduce his size, and somebody figured it out. They got him down to like 6'6". Everybody thought, of course, that he was an enemy at first. They were like, "Oh my gosh, here comes this thing. He's coming to destroy the planet." And then they find out, no, it's just some explorer that's been going around trying to get to other universes, and it turns out he lives in this other universe that's, I guess, clearly the size proportions are different. But yeah, man, as far as shock value goes, and the first card that I ever saw played against me where I was like, who is this and how is this Marvel? I have no idea who it was. It was Infinite for sure.
Early on in the game, I went there for something else. I think I had looked him up, but not long after I looked him up, I went to the fandom wiki and Infinite was trending.
That's why. That's gotta be why.
Oh, absolutely.
It's gotta be why. Nobody knew who it was. it would have been fun to go and kind of look at how many appearances these characters had, because I really wonder about Arrow. Infinite, let's take a look and see how many appearances they have on Marvel Fandom. 5 appearances of Infinite. That's a deep cut.
But I would like to go back and read those, not only for Snap, but because Al Ewing wrote those, and Al Ewing's just been killed lately.
I've really wanted to read Immortal Hulk. I've heard so many good things about that.
I wanted to dislike Immortal Hulk, but it was too well done.
Way to go, Al Ewing. But again, completely appropriately represented in Marvel Snap, a 6-cost 20. That definitely rings true with what it sounds like Infinite's all about. So,
one of those 5 appearances, he was paired with his best Snap partner, Dracula.
Look, all we need to do, Evan Bevins, is contact Marvel and just tell them we've got a new idea for Marvel Team Up, and it's completely based.
Marvel Snap Team Up.
It's completely based off of great combos in Marvel Snap that have no business happening, but we're going to have a story.
I like it.
All right. Hey, man, we actually got 2. I win. I'm really surprised. So what did we have 3? I had Infinite. Oh, no, you're right. We did have 3.
Wave and Arrow. So it was right in between.
Right in between that, between 2 and 4.
So if you think about it, we were both right.
Did you have a list of runners up?
Not really, because once I got to Bast and Sarah, I technically knew them.
Okay. I'll run down mine and you tell me.
I remember I knew Hell Cow existed. And I think he showed up in Howard the Duck. So or she, I guess.
Forgot about Hell Cow. That would have made my runner-up list too. Because I was like, I remember you guys talking about it. I don't even think I'd seen it. I'm going to run this down. You tell me if any of these, I just want to hear your history. Okay. The Hood.
Oh, yeah. You didn't read New Avengers, Jesse?
I just read Hawkeye Freefall.
Yeah.
And the Hood was the villain in that. We did that, and we're covering that. Me and Mark are covering that. We recorded that a while back.
Oh, the Hood was in New Avengers so much I got sick of him.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Man, did not.
Yeah, Bendis' New Avengers, the Hood was like one of the main recurring big bads.
Okay. We already talked about Bast. Zero was one that I don't recall. I don't think I've ever seen before. And
don't you host the Unspoken Issues podcast? Zero was a member of the Mutant Liberation Front.
Wait.
He was Strife's teleporter. I still don't understand how he got in the game.
And I get
Hell Cow. I get the international appeal of Arrow. I get the weirdness and the effect of Infinite. I don't know who was like, let's put Zero in there.
That's great stuff. I like deep cuts like that where you're like, how? Who?
Yeah. Well, I use Zero all the time.
Right. And I will say that we covered, it was a 2-issue series called Blood Metal. The first time I ever reached out to Rob Liefeld and he answered. Who is Agent 13?
That's Sharon Carter.
Sharon Carter.
And she, in the comics, is more of Captain America's love interest than Peggy was. They decided he needed a World War II era love interest, and Haley Atwell was awesome, so here we are.
Was she referred to as Agent 13 in the Marvel's MCU at all?
I want to say maybe briefly.
Okay.
I mean, I mostly knew her as Sharon Carter. Because I didn't read a lot of Captain America. I think the first place I encountered her was in the Overpower card game, and she just went by Sharon Carter. But yeah, technically she's Agent 13.
Okay. Stegron, you already shared with me one of the most infamous moments of Stegron's career and how you mistook it with his
Sauron.
It was Sauron anyway. Sauron all along.
Stegron was there, yeah. And there was a storyline, I think, where Venom fought Stegron. He was turning like homeless people into dinosaurs, as you do.
All right. And the last one on my list was Orca.
Oh, yeah, Orca, I remember from, I got like only one. Do you remember the Atlantis Attacks annuals?
Yes.
I only got one of those. It was Avengers, and it was like a whole bunch of Avengers going all over the world to fight the Atlanteans. And that was when Mr. Fantastic and the Invisible Woman were part of the Avengers, and one of the teams was Mr. Fantastic, Invisible Woman, She-Hulk, and Black Panther. And I remember them fighting Orca, and Orca's like, look, it's the Fantastic Four, and Black Panther's like, more or less. He also showed up in that issue of She-Hulk that Peter David wrote where they made She-Hulk the movie. Which I'd forgotten about. I did a post on that to coincide with the She-Hulk series coming out.
Yeah, I remember that.
She-Hulk's first brush with Hollywood, and Orca was in that.
Good old Orca. I had no idea he existed until I saw that. Man, we did it. We have finished it. Evan Bevins, tell the people what you've got going on over there.
Well, if you want to read about the aforementioned She-Hulk movie issue, or Stan Lee creating the DC universe, or the Secret Defenders, I think I could probably make a Secret Defenders snap deck with all the people that rotated through their ranks. Just need that Thunderstrike card. Anyway, you can find all that and more at *51.blogspot.com. Also, learn about the cinematic selections you can probably find at your local Dollar Tree, including Chinese-speaking vampires and Batman Ninja.
Nice.
And the Sneak Over, which drew on the craze of Stranger Things by putting the Stranger Things font on its box.
Fantastic.
The only connection. But anyway, so yeah, you can find all that there. And I am, like I mentioned, I'm working my way through over on Billy D's Magazines and Monsters channel. We're going through the Thor: The Eternals saga.
Yeah.
Mark Radulich and I recently did a comic strip on cowboys and aliens.
That's right. That's right.
The comic and the movie talk about what they had in common, and the only things they had in common were the words cowboys and aliens. Spoiler alert. You keep inviting me back to talk about Snap, even though I keep beating you at those. I keep beating you on 2 in a row, and then I mock you for not knowing who Zero is. So maybe I won't be back next month. I don't know.
Welcome to the show, not Evan Bevins. I will say, just to kind of tease people out there, our next discussion most likely will have at least a little bit of discussion about Conquest, which was a game mode that dropped recently. And look, on the unspoken issues front of things here, on Monday, we are going to be releasing myself, Evan Bevins, and Chris Armstrong talking about the Ultraverse launch titles. So that's what you can look forward to on the 90s focused comic podcast, Unspoken Issues. As for the source material side of things, Mark Radulich and I just finished off our trilogy of metal-based comics based on metal bands. Our next trilogy begins the 10th of July, and here's the first book. The first book we are going to look at, and Evan Bevins, I want you to read it at some point. Don't listen to our podcast. I want you to read the book first.
Oh, I usually don't.
Okay, I know you're a guy that likes to read the stuff, but don't get spoiled. This was one that I was like, I don't want to spoil anything for Evan at all because I know he would love it. Avengers Defenders Tarot.
Oh, yes.
It's fantastic. I had a lot of fun reading it, and Silver Surfer Black is on the agenda on the 24th of July. And then rounding out that trilogy would be our August 7th show of source material, which will be Hawkeye Freefall, which was mentioned here earlier. See a lot of Hawkeye and talk a lot about the Hood. So, all right, well, for Evan Bevins, I'm Jesse Starcher. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you next season. Have a good one. Bye-bye.